Man, today was crazy. So it all started when news broke that Politico, a news outlet, didn't pay their employees. And everyone started wondering, what could be going on in the world where Politico, a large news organization that it's considered to not like Donald Trump, how are they not paying their employees? And so people immediately started looking up government spending on Politico and found $8 million. Actually, the number is much higher if you go back further years. This led to some people tweeting that USAID, a government agency at the center of a lot of big breaking news, was funding Politico. It's not really. What was actually uncovered is that the government is spending thousands of dollars per person on insane, nonsensical subscriptions to a ton of different media outlets. Some people are pointing out Thomson Reuters, the AP, the New York Times, Politico. Effectively, I'll put it this way. When you guys get a news subscription, you pay $10, $20. The government pays $2,000 to $15,000 for a subscription. That doesn't seem to make sense, does it? And Politico's accepted a lot of money. Now we're hearing the White House says it's canceling all of these subscriptions, some $8 million worth, and the media is recoiling, claiming it's fake news. None of it's actually happening. Calm down. Oof. Yeah, it's happening. And you know what? This is all out in the open. Anybody could have looked this up. It's only because of the actions of Doge and what we're seeing that people actually started digging into how the government is spending money on liberal media outlets. And they're spending tens of millions of dollars. In one instance, I think I found like the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service or whatever it's called was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the New York Times. And it's like, For why? For what? To read the New York Times? Well, they argue they have pro-subscription tools and things like this. We'll break all of that down. A lot of crazy news, of course. We also have the shuttering of USAID. All of the staff have been affected to leave. And crazy. Donald Trump also signed an executive order banning men from women's sports. And of course, a lot of people are losing their minds over that one. We had CBS release to the FCC the full unredacted raw interview with Kamala Harris. I can't believe people actually watched it, but they did, and they found that there were some alterations, which is very interesting and may impact Donald Trump's lawsuit. So we're going to talk about all of this stuff, my friends, and we're going to break down the scandal here and how the government is funding the liberal press. Before we get started, of course, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. Unfortunately, you can't buy Ian's Graphene Dream. It's sold out. I don't know how the man does it. He's crazy. But you can get 2 weeks till Christmas, Phil's gingerbread roast, where the man is dressed like Santa Claus. Absolutely. We also, of course, have Appalachian Nights, Rise with Roberto Jr. And I'll just shout it again. We've got the franchising system set up. Over 100 location requests, I think, in like the first week or so. And so we've been fielding a bunch of calls. A lot of people want to open up their own location. We want you to have your own location. Be a part of the team. Very excited. And of course, click the link in the description below and join Timcast.com to watch the Green Room show. We've got one. I think today's Green Room we just filmed is probably like one of the best. It's the least consequential, but it was hilarious. And there were inappropriate jokes. We were all just basically hanging out, talking about the Super Bowl and Trump and things like this. And it was a lot of fun. But Mary Morgan had an amazing conversation with Terry Schilling. It's up now, and it's getting rave reviews. Everyone's saying it's like one of the best podcasts we've done, and it's literally just Mary sitting in the green room talking uncensored as the cameras were rolling with Terry Schilling. It's really interesting stuff, and I was there playing Magic the Gathering. But don't forget to also smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. As I mentioned, become a member. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we got Nuance Bro.
Hey, thanks for having me.
That's it. What's your real name?
Omid.
Okay. Well, there you go. I just call you Nuance because that's what I know you as.
Yeah, that is what it is.
That is what do you do? Who are you?
I shit post on X mostly about politics and news and all that stuff.
Easily explained. You're a guy on X who complains about stuff.
There we go.
There we go. We also got Elad hanging out.
Hey, everybody. What's up? My name is Elad Eliyahu. I'm a field correspondent here at Timcast. Nuance Bro, what's up? It's good to see you.
What's up?
Ian, how's it going?
Hi, fantastic, dude. Hi, I'm Ian Crossland. I'm a prophet, an engineer. No, I'm just kidding. But the thing about the future and how we sit around, we kind of predict what's happening is we're also creating what's happening. The way that people are, if you study like neurolinguistic programming, the way that people are just ready to like do what you say is going to happen, it's pretty wild. The power of creation of reality. They call it manifestation a lot of ways. So let's keep doing it. Let's manifest some cool shit, man.
Manifest some destiny.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil
Greenland.
Fonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's go.
And I want to mention yesterday what happened for many people who aren't familiar. I did address this on I did a morning live show over at youtube.com/TimcastNews. So we're all sitting here having a good old time. And we were about 20 minutes until the show started. I'm not going to get into too much personal information. All that I will say is I am a recently married man with a child on the way. And we were about a month out from that child, which means don't be surprised if 10 minutes before the show, we have everything set up perfectly with my face smiling in the thumbnail, and then it's Phil instead. Because when the wife comes a-knocking, we're out the door, no questions asked. I'll keep it real simple. We just had to go for a checkup. Everything was good, but it was a last-minute thing, and anybody who has kids knows exactly what I'm talking about. So it's fun. How about that? But I'm not going to stick around and wait to find out. I ran out the door. I left my phone. I had no idea what was happening, and Phil just jumped up and took over. So I apologize for not being here, but I'm sorry. My family's more important than talking about the news for 2 hours. I can always come back later. So there you go. There's the explanation. Expect it to happen again. Probably several times in the next month and maybe slightly afterwards. Sorry, but that's the way it is. All right, let's jump into this first story we have from CNN. I love it. White House says it will cancel $8 million in Politico subscriptions after a false right-wing conspiracy theory spreads. Oh, a false one. Oh, no. It all started with this. Max Tanny says staff at Politico did not get paid. And they were basically saying it was a technical glitch resulting in them not getting paid. I think it was. It's happened to us before. We've had days where there was a glitch in the payroll system because everybody uses a lot of the same companies and it's no big deal. And then within a few hours, it's resolved. However, people then started digging in being like, is Elon Musk gutting funding that took money away from Politico? Because there was a question being asked. How is it that Politico, of limited audience and consequence, is able to fund such a massive operation? Honest question. We here at Timcast rely on you guys to become members. And then if we do ad reads, we don't really, but becoming members funds all of this. And it's not easy. And we're limited. And we don't have nearly the size and staff of Politico. So how do they do it? Right? Well, so people started digging in. As it turns out, the government be giving them lots and lots of money. Take a look at this from usspending.gov. Let's start with this one. Politico LLC, $862,000. That came from, it was a purchase order. And it's from the Department of the Interior National Park Service from September of 21 until September of 2025. A 4-year purchase totaling $862,000. Then we've got another $622,000. This one coming from the Department of Interior, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service from it's the June of 2022 until June of 2026. Another 4-year deal. Why are they spending all of this money, and what is this? Here's one that's particularly egregious. 172 subscribers for $388,000. That's $2,300 per person per year for the Department of Energy to have a subscription for 1 year. Now, of course, the media is trying to cover it up, but it's not just Politico. It's a bunch of other companies. Let me see. We got this from Axios. Doge targets government media subscriptions after MAGA attacks. And they mention the New York Times, AP, Reuters are getting exorbitant amounts of money for products and subscriptions from the government. So my question, as we kick off this conversation to the panel, for what purpose? And be honest, I know maybe Nuance Bro, he'll tell us exactly why the government wants to spend between $2,000 and $15,000 for a subscription to a news company. Why are they doing that?
Well, we were talking before the show. There was something like they were saying that Politico Pro or like these Politico has like this government service where it kind of acts like Bloomberg terminals do for people in the investment banking world or whatever, and it allows them to see things with this proprietary software. So it'd be like paying any other sort of contractor, like the way the government pays Palantir for their proprietary software that tells them like logistical stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what the explanation is. But
let's hold on. That's really interesting. Politico has, my understanding is from a government tier. They have a specific subscription for the government for like $2,750. And then they have this like Premier Plus Pro thing or whatever that might be, I think, like $15,000. And so is this an intelligence agency? Are these media companies effectively like Palantir providing intel and data to the government for exorbitant fees?
Well, so far I haven't really seen in any of the articles like an explanation of exactly what the government's paying them to do with this sort of stuff. So I'm pretty confused as well. But I'm also, you know, what percentage of Politico's actual annual revenue is actually coming from government sources? Do we know what like their annual revenue is? Because
we don't.
8 million's like,
but how about
over
this?
Like 10? Isn't that like 8 or 10 years or something?
It's like 9 years. Yeah, the 8 million's over 9 years. So they're getting just shy of $1 million a year from the government, from government subscriptions, which it's still, I mean, it's impactful. And in their lifetime, I think someone posted that they got like 34 million in their lifetime. So, hey man, I'd love to get $1 million a year from exorbitant government subscriptions. How about we launch Timcast Trump Pro, where it's $5,000 per subscription, and Trump and his team, they can all buy it from us.
They would call it money laundering immediately.
Oh, of course. Well, take a look at this. Now, I want to stress, this is not USAID funding media outlets, except this one is. From the BBC, our statement on USAID funding, the BBC says, they say, like many international development organizations, BBC Media Action has been affected by the temporary pause in U.S. government funding, which amounts to about 8% of our income in 2023 to 24. We're doing everything we can to minimize the impact on our partners. Heavens me. The BBC is literally funded by the U.S. government to a certain degree.
All of this stuff is a complete waste of taxpayer dollars. There's no legitimate reason for USAID to do the vast majority of the things that I've heard about. So now maybe there are other programs that USAID has that are legitimate, that actually do benefit the United States when it comes to foreign policy. But all of the stuff that I've heard being discovered by Doge or whatever, it's all garbage. It's all slush fund. A lot of it, a significant portion of it, is money being used for one political agenda. That's the American taxpayers' money being used to promote one political agenda against, that a lot of Americans are in complete opposition to. So that right there alone is enough reason for me to say, cut them as deeply as we can, make as many significant cuts as possible. And people that are screaming and crying against this, they're all from one side. You don't hear, I haven't heard any Republicans or conservatives making significant protest about this, but the left, they're literally out in the streets, out in front of Congress, out in front of, I was out in front of Congress the other day, screaming at the top of their lungs, threatening to, use lawfare, threatening to shut the Senate down. All because these are the projects that the left likes, because they promote the left's ideology.
And to keep it, because it's not just left and right. And Mike Benz made this observation. He's been doing a lot of research on USAID. If Bernie Sanders had won in 2016, USAID would be funding anti-Bernie Sanders stuff. They're anti-populist because the populism is a threat to the control of the empire.
I disagree because Bernie Sanders has been...
But they were anti-Bernie Sanders the whole time. Bernie Sanders at the time was getting attacked relentlessly by the establishment press, and the DNC colluded to shut him out. So yes, however, Bernie Sanders, he figured out who butters his bread, and he likes his vacation houses, and he likes being the largest recipient of big pharma dollars, and so he got in line.
Yeah, I disagree that they would actually have gone after Bernie. Bernie is one of the biggest cowards in the Senate, and he would have laid down he did.
He did. That's exactly what happened.
He's basically an establishment Democrat now.
Yeah,
he changed
absolutely.
his position on immigration. He said it's like a good thing that the CIA was going into Brazil to help, against the whole Bolsonaro thing.
That might be because of his political leanings, though. If you're helping a socialist is going to think, well, maybe this is okay.
Well, they decried CIA going into Central and South America for the longest time, and now it's like, oh, it's no problem.
But the left doesn't.
For our guy.
The left, exactly. The left's always going to be much softer on it if it's for their guy or for people that have their political ideology.
As far as the government funding for these different news organizations goes, I think the most forgiving explanation is that these are essentially a subsidy to different news organizations because the business of news is actually extremely difficult, and it's extremely difficult to maintain a successful news business, and people turn over and get out of the business a lot, and it's within the government's interest to have a vibrant media space, and then I'm sure they benefit from good coverage back and forth from the people kind of lining their pockets, but they could argue that we have an interest in a vibrant media covering what's going on in our country in an effective manner.
Oh, well, when do we get the cut? I mean, we have a top global podcast. It's a prominent live show. Perhaps they could fund us, but they don't.
Would you accept money? I don't even think you would.
But of course I would not. The point, well, it actually depends, and I'll break down the nuance on this one. But the point is, how come it only ever goes in one direction? How come?
100% right. Yeah.
How come the law enforcement that's being fair and democratic is only after going Trump supporters and J6ers? It's not going after Antifa. And then when it comes to the funding, it's always just these big liberal media outlets. Let me break it down for you.
I find that the argument that it's both, so the both sidesism argument, I don't find that compelling at all.
Let me break it down. The question of would I accept money from the government? The simple answer is no. But the issue at hand is, let me give you a scenario where a company may start on good standing and good founding and then find itself wrapped around the CIA very easily. We're going to start a news organization. It's called eladsnews.com. And Elad launches a subscription service, $10 a month. And he says, hey guys, like I go on the ground, I report, I ask questions, $10 a month, and then you can be a member. And then boom, overnight, he's got 1,000 members. And he's like, wow, I'm actually making a lot of money now. I could afford to hire another staffer to help me do this. So he has another person, makes more content. Boom, now he's got 3,000 subscribers. 2 years goes by, and Elad's got 40,000 paying members at $10 a month, and he's running an operation. He's got an office, a headquarters. He's hired 30, 40 people. He's like, man, this is amazing what we're able to pull off. 5 years later, he's got a staff of 130. He's like, we here at A Lot of News have been fighting the good fight. And we got all these people here. And then all of a sudden, CIA knocks on the door and says, we'd like to have a meeting with you. And then they slide over a piece of paper that shows 50,000 of his subscribers are actually government employees that are buying a premium plus plan. And they say, here's what's going to happen. We want you to write that Donald Trump is a fascist. We want this to be your principal coverage. And Elad goes, hey, look, we're journalists, man. We don't do that stuff. And says, that's no problem. We're sorry we asked. We'll just get in line with our boss and cancel our 50,000 subscriptions. Oh, is that a large portion of your revenue? I guess that means you're out of business and everyone's fired. Or, you can just accept the truth. Trump's a fascist, right? And so what happens is these companies, some of them do get calls from the State Department. Fact, I can tell you this with experience, definitively, primary source. I have worked for news organizations where the bosses got phone calls from the State Department to talk to them about their news coverage. 100% fact. Now, it's often they try and play it like, hey, look, we're not telling you what to do. Yeah. But when the State Department calls you and says, we're really concerned about this kind of story, you know what that means. And you know what's going to happen if you say no. You know what the greatest award in journalism is? It's not the Pulitzer. Anybody?
Staying out of jail?
No. You guys don't know the greatest award in journalism?
No.
It's called CIA assassination.
Okay.
It's not the Pulitzer Prize. That's the meme, at least, that if you actually are going to break down a big story that's going to expose the government, they won't let you do it. And so I think for a lot of these companies, there's the mockingbird argument that the feds have been deeply involved in spreading propaganda intentionally. I think it's much more, look, they want plausible deniability. That's why the way it works is they're going to buy premium subscriptions to the tune of $1 million a year or whatever. That's going to fund a lot of employees. With $860,000, how many people can you hire? You can hire a bunch of low-level staff at $48,000. Maybe you can hire a handful of staff at $100,000, maybe a couple of high-profile journalists for $200,000, and they're going to report what you tell them to report, and that money is coming from government subscriptions.
But again, what percentage of Politico's revenue is actually government funding? I can't imagine it's that high.
I tried to pull
it looks like based on those numbers, they may be getting, like $1 million a year or whatever.
7.2 in 2023,
Oh, that's
7.2
a
million?
healthy portion then. If
Wait,
That's their total revenue in 2023.
Then I'm reading 750
hold on.
million
Stop.
Yeah, that sounds
in 2025.
That sounds.
Wait, Politico made $750
This is just
million
according to the
dollars?
AI answer on Brave when I searched Politico yearly revenue.
I don't buy that.
Yeah, that's not true. That's 100% not true.
Because how could it go from 7.2 to 750?
Yeah,
in
7.2
years?
doesn't sound.
Sounds like
correct.
it's an error in the AI.
Hold on. Are you saying 7.2 million total revenue from all sources for 1 year?
700, right?
Well, okay. This reads, as of January 2025, Politico's annual revenue reached 750 million. I don't know if that's true. However, earlier reports from 2023 indicated an annual revenue of 7.2 million.
That doesn't make any sense. That's just AI being retarded.
I think so, which seems to be outdated given the more recent information. So maybe they were hiding revenue. The revenue significantly increased, reflecting the company's growth and expansion. Maybe they just got paid hundreds of millions of dollars of fiat.
So they may have 20,000 paid subscribers as of 2017. It's been 8 years.
Well, that's just paid subs. Like they probably make a lot through advertising, and
I don't think they do. I think that was actually one of the issues of contention with the story is that they don't actually run a lot of ads. If you go to their website, you don't see advertising. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point though, and it is fair. How much of the revenue of these companies is actually coming from this? Because I think if we pull up the New York Times, they get a lot of money from the government, but it's not. I mean, the New York Times has a ton of paying members. Here's the thing, though. I have an honest question about, say, the BBC and other foreign media outlets that report on the U.S., influence U.S. reporting or otherwise, and USAID accounting for 8% of the BBC's annual budget is insane.
a British newspaper?
Yeah, that's
Crazy.
A statement from bbc.co.uk saying 8% of their income.
yeah, doesn't the BBC get funded by their own government? Like anyway.
Apparently-
Supposed to be. They're supposed to have everyone that buys a television has a license to have a television in the UK. That's there's a meme. It's a meme. Do you have a license for that TV?
So part of this revenue of Politico, they got bought by Axel Springer for over $1 billion in 2021. And I think that they're calculating that billion into their revenue over X amount of years. They're owned by someone.
Well, that's an error because that still doesn't make sense. But if companies generating $750 million in revenue, they're worth way more than $1 billion.
Yeah, so $200 million in 2021, but this is because of the $1 billion acquisition.
Hey, look, far be it from me. I wonder how they're making $200 and something million. It must be their premium subscriptions. And then there's questions about, is there funding that we're not seeing? Because I got to be honest, guys, I do not see a reality, and that's just me, and maybe I'm crazy, where Politico is able to generate hundreds of millions of dollars per year off subscriptions.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I mean,
Axel Springer.
Subscriptions are alone.
So Axel Springer, the company that owns Politico, is owned by Fried Springer and Matthias Dopner, two people. Corporate structure becomes a privately owned and operated news media marketing company.
Well, that's why we don't know the
13.5 euro
revenues.
billion dollar 13.5 billion euro deal was struck to hive off.
I think it's the crux of the issue here is that it's difficult for a media business to survive and thrive as a private business. The most successful, the New York Times is owned by a family and always has been, a rich family, the
Salzburgers.
the Salzburger family. And in that way, they don't need to depend on subscriptions, although I'm sure the New York Times enjoys getting them. And the Washington Post doesn't need to worry about ever actually going bankrupt because they could stay in the red, but Jeff Bezos will fund them indefinitely. So the shift in the way media is as a business will affect the coverage. Also, something to consider are local news stations and these smaller local news areas where they don't get any business and are completely driven based off of ad revenue and wouldn't be able to exist long term without probably they also get grants and
Well,
stuff.
they're also not so small and independent. They're like usually, isn't it like is it Sinclair that owns like a lot of these
Some
local
of them.
stations
A lot of
and
them, yeah.
stuff?
But the thing is, because they can't make money is why they will get bought out and be further consolidated into Sinclair. So the whole business behind media is completely in disarray. This whole subscription business model has been only been a thing for the past decade. Before that, it was ads and that.
Well, no, that's not.
let me- I just wanna-
newspapers. People would pay for newspapers. That was.
I want to just say this. So, looking at their viewership numbers, we are bigger than Politico. So I'll just say that. The question then becomes, if we are bigger than Politico, how are we not doing $200 million a year? Maybe look, man, I got to launch this Timcast Pro $13,000 a month subscription plan and offer people something, you know?
I can't
Keen
imagine
insights of AI. And
I can't imagine how that is considered acceptable. $13,000 a month is what the charge, and how many did they were buying 246 of them?
it doesn't make any sense. But let's do this. Let's jump to this next story, which is still related. Take a look at this from the Dispatch. No, Politico did not receive substantial funds from USAID. Various government agencies have purchased subscriptions to its publication since 2016. The funny thing about these fact checks on this story is that it is fair to say that Kyle Becker and Benny Johnson got this one largely wrong by claiming that USAID was providing $8 million. But I love how they then say the claims are false. According to USAspending.gov, an official source for U.S. government expenditure data and the resource used by Becker in his post, Politico received $8.2 million total payments from government departments and agencies between fiscal year 2016 and 2025. Okay. Well, so they are receiving government funds, but it is a fair question that Nuance Bro brings up. And what is their total revenue, and will this actually affect their bottom line? That being said, however, quid pro quo, if the government is spending $1 million a year, a little bit more, on premium subscriptions, is that going to someone's pocket? What's the point of it? I don't see that as making sense. Or look, I'm sorry, like on the ground, independent media, you go to anybody in the space and say, do you think if you offered up $13,000 subscriptions, that would make sense for anybody? And if they're going to claim that we offer up proprietary technology or whatever, the question then becomes, why is a news organization fronting for an intelligence technology operation?
I want to know how much money the U.S. government gives Axel Springer, the owner. So basically, they're a German company that owns Politico. Politico is now a German company, just so you know. It's headquartered in Berlin, is where Axel Springer is. And I wonder if they're like in bed with the military-industrial, the liberal economic order. You know, it's in Germany, which is basically one of the European capital of the liberal economic order next to Britain. But I'm wondering if they've broken that. Axel Springer, if you search for Axel Springer, and you can see how much donations or purchases have been made by government agencies to Axel Springer SE, which is the name of the corporation.
It's interesting that they use the substantial funds language here because, yeah, it's $44,000 and then $8.1 million in that period of time from just government agencies in general. But just for BBC, as you were covering earlier, just straight from USAID, I guess not even from government agencies altogether, but they're 8% of all their revenue was just from USAID. So it's interesting. The substantial funds were going to the BBC, but not.
Yeah, well, it's the term substantial funds is relative.
If you're talking about, I don't know what they're. I don't know.
8%'s definitely.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what the margins are on that type of operation, but 8% could be all of their profit.
8 million annually feels like a healthy chunk of change. I don't know. Maybe they started advertising.
No, it's not 8 million annually.
It's not 8 million.
It's over 9
it's
years.
like 1 million annually.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I don't know. That $1 million doesn't seem like a lot of money for Politico when it comes.
If they're making $200 million in revenue in 2023, then
we don't know.
That's the estimate. The estimate ranges are around there, and I'm just gonna say right off the bat, as I must be really bad at this. If their viewership is lower than ours and they're doing $200 million and we're nowhere
they're
near
the propaganda arm of Axel Springer. So they're like just like Washington Post was bought by Jeff Bezos as a propaganda arm. That thing's not pulling in money. It's Bezos subsidizing it.
I don't think that it's so much about the company that owns them as their connections to the administration. That's really because they're putting out the propaganda that the administration wants. You don't hear Politico I haven't heard a seriously critical article come out of Politico about Democrats or even establishment Republicans really in a long time. And when they do something critical on establishment Republicans, it's very kid gloves. So they're I mean, I don't know anything about Axel Springer, but the actual collusion with the government is obvious, and that's the actual problem, not who owns them.
What's that website, Tim, that you just had up where you can search by company?
USAspending.gov.
I'm going to search for Axel Springer on that. USA spending. Now that the lid's blown off of USAID.
Like, I mean, again, I don't think the problem, or I think who owns the company is less impactful than their actual connection to the DNC or to the administration, the actual government, because it's whoever's whoever's running Politico, whoever's actually in charge of that, having the access to people in the Democrat Party and putting out essentially what is official, press releases that are written by the government or that are approved by the government. That's the actual problem. I don't know anything about Axel Springer. Maybe they are a bad company, but it doesn't really matter if they're a German company or an American company or what have you, because the problem is that Politico is looked at as the serious news organization, and the Democrat establishment essentially feeds them all of the news that they're putting out.
Let's quick fact check. The BBC Media Action, which is I don't know, an NGO, is what's receiving 8% of their income from USAID. It says, as the BBC's international charity, we're completely separate from BBC News, literally in their statement. Wholly reliant on our donors and supporters to carry out our work.
And you got to remember, when it comes to these global corporations, they're great at naming things to obfuscate, and they'll put a name and another thing with the same name with a slightly different thing that means something else, or they'll call it something completely unrelated, and that's who's really in control, is this umbrella corp that's called Official Strategies LLC. And
remember the Panama Papers?
What, Panama Papers?
Yeah. We found out all those people were hiding money.
Man, that came out, and within 6 months was off the radar. It was Putin's got his money in Panama, all these global oligarchs. And I can hear silence in the room, how the sound gets sucked out. Do you really want to go down that rabbit hole? Because there's snakes down there.
Let's just pause and take a big step back from whatever this story is, and respect the point that we don't know the total revenue of these companies. Maybe they're much bigger and better at this than we think. I know the New York Times makes a lot of money. Good for them. The issue at hand is for the taxpayer. Yeah. Do we accept that you need to spend $3,000 to $13,000 for a subscription? Why is the government? The issue is it's not their money, so they don't care.
Yeah.
If someone said, Elon, you can buy whatever you want, don't worry, the money comes from Tim, Elon's going to be like, okay, what is he worried about? It's not his money.
But that's because Elon's an asshole like that. If you
I'd
actually
be worried about getting fired.
But that's the thing.
Assuming I was your fiduciary.
These agencies are like, I'll spend $1 million on subscriptions. What do I care? Yeah.
It's so disingenuous, man. Just you can't just pay someone $1 million to sit around and be an admin. The value has to be, this is in the private sector. The value of their work has to be market, what do they call it? Market average for the cost of the value. You can't overpay someone as an employee. It's tax fraud. So for a company to offer a $10,000 subscription for something that should be worth $4,000 or $1,000 or $80 a month.
Well, we don't know what it's worth because no one's telling us what the product is. And I want to know what the product is.
It's the one hand washes the other, right? So these companies like Politico is getting money from the federal government via USAID, and so Politico then writes stories that are complimentary about the government. They're literally paying Politico through USAID to write good stories about them. And it doesn't matter if they're paying them a substantial amount of their cost of operation, or if they're just paying them $1 million a year, and the top 4 or the top 5 people that work there are taking $200,000 each.
That's what I wonder. If they're making $200 million in revenue, $1 million isn't enough to blackmail or persuade them to write articles.
Absolutely is.
It's not that much.
Well, it's not.
They have over 1,000 employees.
Yeah, but
they have 1,100 employees.
Here's the thing that I think we're overlooking, guys. I'm reading into Politico Pro, and here it says Politico Pro users are able to quickly get an AI-generated summary of federal bills, rapid access to critical legislature coming out, and different articles. So if you put AI into anything, any part of your business, you will immediately double or quadruple the value of your company. So that's what you need in your company here at Timcast.
Timcast does AI.
AI is ROD.
Everything that we're saying was scripted by AI.
You could build an AI that's that answers people's questions, and then you'd have 50,000 people buy that.
It's a marketing
I just don't believe it. I do believe that they make a lot of money off this. They have newsletters, and they sell sponsorships on it. That makes sense. So I don't think their government income is substantial. But I still think the issue at play is the media is freaking out that we're talking about cutting government waste and having government employees spending millions of dollars on these subscriptions at high costs to various media organizations. That shouldn't be happening. That's it.
Yeah, it's not. I think if people get hung up on thinking this is the bribery scandal, they're going to be wrong. It's going to be a dead end, because if you relatively one 1/20th of their 1/200th of their annual revenue is this. It's
But
not.
I'm going to say this, guys. There's never going to be a day where you discover that USAID gave $10 million to insert news organization. What's going to happen is USAID gave the Defending Democracy super organization in Morocco $10 million. The Defending Democracy organization then said, well, we need access to good, clean information. So they donated $5 million to the Fighting Disinformation charity out of the Cayman Islands, who then bought 50 subscriptions at $50,000 each for sponsorship or whatever.
You're going to
from
start finding it's the National Endowment for Democracy. That's basically the on-the-ground people that carry out USAID's briberies and world-building things. It's the National Endowment for Democracy. Mike
Is that
Benz,
a specific organization?
Yeah.
And you know that for a fact?
Mike Benz. This is what Mike Benz says a lot. He
So
says
it's been
USAID.
reported. So you're saying it's been reported, that's the case.
The National Endowment for Democracy is probably the next one that's going to be the next USAID lid blown off. Like, oh my God, what are they doing? These are like the boots on the ground, according to Mike Benz.
Well, there was an anti-Elon Musk and anti-Doge protest today in Washington, D.C. outside of the Department of Labor. I think there's allegedly supposed to be, it's been reported that there's going to be a meeting tomorrow with people inside the Department of Labor and people at Doge. So they are seeing cuts left and right, and I'm not surprised to see any given day what department that the Doge team or the Trump team might decide to cut up.
Let's jump to this story from Fortune. I'm scared. Inside federal workers' heartbreak and fury after Trump administration encourages resignations. They're scared, guys. They're scared. Do you feel bad yet? Should we burn the Constitution?
Not one bit.
No? Okay. Well, here's a tweet from Shelby Talcott. The number of deferred resignations has risen to over 40,000 ahead of tomorrow's deadline. A source familiar with the situation tells me the number is still expected to grow. For those that don't know the story, Donald Trump said to all of the federal employees, how would you like to get an 8-month paid vacation with full benefits? Just submit a response to this email saying, resign, and then you will not have to come into work and you will get paid in full with benefits until September 30th. The number is now at 40,000, and there's a bunch of Democrats saying it's a coup, saying it's illegal. Unions are losing their minds. I love this the most. I love it. The unions are like, oh no, we're about to lose all of our tax base because these union scumbags are like, we have 5,000 people here who are forced to pay us $30 a month, and Trump's offering them resignations. We're done. So they're freaking out, threatening Trump, saying, or the administration legally saying, like, you can't do this, it's illegal, but it's happening. And he also offered the CIA employees buyouts.
Yeah, but it's not really Trump, it's Elon, because the way this happened is an email got sent out en masse to the various employees that this would apply to, and the title of the email was A Fork in the Road, which, if people remember, it's the same email that went out to all these ex-employees at the time to give them their severance and said, hey, you can stay with us or you can take this severance. It's a generous severance package and leave if you don't want to go, hardcore. Or whatever. So in this case, they're doing an 8-month severance. I guess there's something in the law where they can do that through executive action any longer. I think Elon wanted to do like 2 years initially, but that would require an act of Congress. So that's why they're doing this 8-month thing.
Interesting.
It seems on its face very reasonable. I mean, think about how horrible it would have been if the people had just been fired and left on the street. Like he's giving them 8 months.
Who's going to say no?
Well, a lot of people are saying no, apparently.
How many?
Sure.
So 40,000 said yes out of how many so far? Anybody got that
2
number?
million or something?
Yeah, a couple million. But the question is this: how many people would, if I said, would you want to start a business, Nuance Bro?
Sure.
How about I give you 8 months of funding to start your business?
Oh, that sounds great.
Sounds great, doesn't it? And benefits, healthcare.
But here's the thing. If you've been working for the federal government for 19 years and you're like, oh, I could get that 20-year pension once I hit that 20-year mark, you're going to want to be like, I want to hit that 20 years because that's actually more money than 8 months of severance.
I don't know if people have if they've been made aware of this, but like taking the offer might be the best option because Doge may just come and get rid of their jobs after. Like if they don't take this option, Doge might come. Doge might come after them.
That's why people are scared.
Yeah, and good. They should be. Like the idea that this is some kind of horrible development for America, that it's a coup or any of that stuff. It's literally just trying to streamline the government. That's all that they're doing is trying to make cuts, which any functioning business does. This is the most normal thing that can possibly happen in the private sector. You look at the people that are working, you look at the job they're doing. If they're not doing a good job, you start making cuts. And this is something that should have happened. I mean, it should have happened multiple times in the past 50 years. There should be an ongoing effort to cut government. It shouldn't be just one time that Doge comes in. There should be every year. There should be audits that you have to pass, that you have to show where all of the money that you're spending goes. This should be the most normal, mundane thing in the world. And the fact that the left is apoplectic about it and making it seem as if trying to make it seem as if it's an attack on average people, when average people are not going to be significantly affected by these things. In my opinion, it shows that they're the people that are going to lose because these programs are slush funds for the left and for their agenda. The more government that you have, the better the left likes it.
Yeah, the Democrats are making a huge mistake by hitching their wagon to this USAID cause, because the only people who are at these protests or care about USAID for the most part in the United States are people who live maybe within like a 2-mile radius of Washington, D.C. It doesn't make any sense. People like David Axelrod, and even what's his name? Who's that Democrat strategist that looks like a naked mole rat? He also says like they're making a mistake by like putting all their political capital. James Carville. They're all saying that Democrats are making a huge mistake by standing up for this instead of the things that really matter, like the Medicaid.
Especially when you can show that these programs, when you can tie to it like the gender affirming care in Guatemala or trans people in blah, blah, blah in some foreign country. When you're sending millions of dollars, which granted, $1 million when it comes to the federal budget is nothing, but to the average American, $1 million is a lot of money. If they got $1 million, it would change their life. So when you can tie $1 million to this stupid program, $1 million to this stupid program, and then not only that, it's all stuff that's all like quote unquote woke and things that that normal people are like, I'm not okay with that. When you can put those things together, you have a recipe for the worst PR imaginable. And the Democrats are walking right into it.
I think the most amazing thing here is how fast Trump is making all of these moves, and it really has the left in disarray. Good. So in a different season, when Trump was reinvigorating ICE and talking about these mass deportations, that would have led to a whole social movement, and Trump wouldn't have been able to do stuff for a month. But here he signs that. The left isn't even able to organize around it. One day he's talking about taking over Greenland and the Panama Canal. You could have seen a whole round of protests against that, but since he's moving so quickly, they can't do that. This U.S. aid stuff, so quickly they can't get a response. He said he's withdrawing from UNRWA and withdrawing the UN, the U.S. from the Human Rights Council. All of these moves, talking about taking over Gaza, that it really has all of the left in disarray. The speed that he's able to go through all of this stuff and accomplish so much.
Starting to respond slowly. Representative Mark Pokin introduced a bill called it's the Elon Musk Act. He introduced it this morning. It hasn't been made available to the public, but it prevents special government employees from taking government contracts. We've had what's this class of government employee called special government employees since 1962, and it lets you hire someone from the private sector without them having to quit their private sector job, and then you can appoint them in the executive or the legislative branch as a special government employee. As an administrator,
I think it's just posturing. This bill isn't going anywhere.
Guys.
It's just posturing. It's called the Elon Musk Act. You might as well just be, that's what he's trying to run on.
I got a question for you guys. Which county has the highest median income in the United States?
Loudoun.
It's the one that's right next to D.C.
The one that's right next to D.C. It's Loudoun County.
Yep.
And it's lawyers and lobbyists and other people funded through these crackpot government programs. This place would not exist if they were not taking taxpayer dollars and dispersing them in this way.
I tell you, man, with the age of artificial intelligence is a little bit of a tangent here, but those jobs will be displaced. Lawyers displaced. That they're not going to have jobs. AI is going to do it for them, for us. We don't need to pay
let's
middlemen.
pause real quick. There's already been a bunch of scandals where lawyers were caught drafting up legal arguments using ChatGPT.
Oh my gosh!
And it manufactured fake precedent, and it put in fake cases, and judges were like, "That's not a real case."
Yeah, you would call them, I don't know, the parasite class, but people that are like trying to profit off of things you should be able to do yourself if you only knew how. those people are going to be those jobs will be terminated.
Like, say that
shortly.
again?
People that are profiting off of doing something for you that you should know how to do yourself.
Like what?
You should be able to, like a lawyer. You should be able to represent yourself in court. You're legally allowed to. And if you knew enough about it, you could. But because of the cost of schooling and like not everyone wants to, I get that, but you still can. Those jobs are going to be
terrible.
It's largely
unneeded.
because the lawyer game is not about what's true and correct. It's about what you can argue.
Yeah.
And so we, in this country, like based on what you're saying, we believe that good men of honor and integrity who are trying to get to the truth should be able to make those arguments. But then the issue is there's rules in court. There's rules to how you can argue or present a case. There's when is the office open? If you file this paper and get this permit, when does it got to be submitted to this office? And if you don't know those things, you're going to lose. So a person representing themselves, that's why they have a fool for a client, as the saying goes, because they're going to walk in and be like, I'm honest, I have the truth on my side, and I'll tell people the truth. And then the lawyer's going to say, Your Honor, based on this reason and that reason, strike that from the record. And then the judge is going to be like, your evidence is out. And you're like, wait, what, why?
But with a good artificial intelligence program that will guide you through the process and let you avoid all those pitfalls, you may be on par
you'll
with the
be in
people that went to
prison.
school for 8 years for it.
You'll be in prison and you'll have a cellmate. And be like, what are you in for? And you'll be like, honestly, I didn't do anything, nor was I arrested. But the AI made a miscalculation on my name and put me instead of the other guy who's also named Tim Pool in prison.
Maybe at first, it's not going to be a perfect process, but I think that's the idea, is that it is going to displace 40% of the workplace or something within the next 5 years.
I'm a huge AI skeptic. I think we're being sold a false bill of goods, and have the market evaluation boom that we've been seeing off of the marketing of AI. It doesn't hold water in any way. People talk about the applications of AI. I don't think we're going to see them the way that people are panning them out. I think we've been sold false technological advances in the past that haven't panned out, and we're just being sold more and more of them now. I think the chatbots that we see now are wrong half of the time.
With full self-driving.
We don't have full self-driving in a meaningful way.
What do you mean?
We have it.
I do it every day.
Yeah, what do you mean?
We have full self-driving in certain parts of the country that isn't completely safe.
No.
That's not true.
That's not true.
I can get in. I have 2 Teslas, and I push a button, I put my hands down, and I stare, and it drives by
You
itself.
need to hold the
No, you
wheel.
don't.
No,
That's
you
not true.
don't.
You don't need to hold the wheel.
do not need
It
to hold
doesn't
the
go
wheel.
wrong. It doesn't
No.
ever.
Nope.
No, but here's what he
2 years ago, maybe. But right now, if I get into my Tesla, I click the button one time, and it drives straight to my destination.
So tonight we're supposed to have an ice storm here or something.
no, but
You
that's-
are going to be willing to go and click a button and take you home to wherever you need to drive right now. In these back roads in
Actually,
West Virginia, where you
let me
can barely
pause.
see.
Let me pause you right there.
Go ahead.
In many circumstances, the car reacts better than I do and a human being does. So actually, when we were driving, it was last year in a snowstorm, I let the car drive itself. Because do you know how to respond to hydroplaning? Tell me what to do if you hydroplane.
You're supposed to brake hard and then let the auto.
Negative. You're supposed to very
brakes?
gently tap it. Don't slam
Hey,
the
you know
brakes
what?
as
I'm
you
not going to
hydroplane.
argue with any of you because my self-driving car automatically adapts to hydroplaning and corrects itself.
And they have new brakes that will automatically adapt for you if you slam them. But
if
you're
I
The
could-
point is, you can be a skeptic about AI all you'd like, but AI is advancing faster than you could believe. The end of this year, full self-driving unsupervised is alleged to be released. If not the end of this year, it'll be first quarter or something like that next year, which means where you don't have to watch it. Like right now, if you're driving, you do have to keep your head up and look at the road. There will be coming shortly one where you don't. That's what the Tesla taxi is based on. The autonomous taxi is based on the person doesn't have to do anything. Waymo does it right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
get,
but
you,
they
you
use
get in a taxi.
LiDAR
We
and it's
don't
like-
have widespread, effective, as I understand, still on the streets, self-driving cars.
You're wrong.
I think with chatbots,
You're completely-
if I can
you're
continue.
I actually
You can't
agree.
Chatbots.
Two people that own
guys,
Teslas
I have a
are telling you you're
Tesla
wrong.
too with
Okay,
full
good.
self-driving. But here's the thing: the edge cases are the main. Like it can do most, like 99% of things it can do. But the problem is, if you're going to do it for everyday application and over, long periods of time, it still has problems with edge cases.
Like what?
That's why it's that's why it's not that's
What's
why
an
it's not-
example of an edge case?
An edge case will be, for example, if a leaf falls the exact way, or there's like a strange object in the street that it doesn't know if it's like a shadow, because it's working purely on vision. Because Tesla only does vision. They got rid of the radar. They don't do LiDAR. With just vision, and it doesn't have any gimbals, so it can like move around and stuff. It's hard for it to completely identify objects the same way humans can in edge cases. Because it's
And let me pause real quick. There's also a thing called blind spots that's been around since the creation of cars.
Yeah.
And humans also can't see 100% either, and humans get into accidents too.
No, I think it's safer than humans. I think like mile per mile right now, it's safer than humans. But if you're trying to have it as like a day-to-day, long-term application, those edge cases are still what trips.
Remember what started this conversation a lot is skeptical of AI, and the point is AI is progressing faster than most people can say. So I don't. Whereas we can talk about edge cases all we want, and there are going to be edge cases and stuff like that. AI is the technology that people say that.
So, Phil, I don't think that the AI that we're being marketed right now justifies the doubling, tripling, quadrupling of a lot of tech stocks that we're seeing right now in the stock market. Is my point.
There are bubbles, absolutely, and
that's what I'm trying to explain.
But that's what's going on in the stock market is different from what's going on.
Well,
practically.
if
you're talking about the cost or the valuation of companies, that's one thing. But this is what happened with the .com bubble too. There were everybody that had a .com, the prices went crazy on everything that was .com.
Yeah.
I agree with you about maybe there are companies that are overvalued, but it doesn't mean the underlying technology is not great.
Okay, so we're not artificial isn't it's really a marketing ploy because it's not artificial intelligence in any serious way we think of the word. These chatbots are next word predictors. They're not actual artificial intelligence in the way that we think of a cognizant.
We were just talking about cars that drive themselves, not about LLMs. I don't think that's why Amazon and Microsoft are quadrupling their market caps because of self-driving cars. It's this different chatbot technology. Tesla has been going nuts. Okay, well, I didn't mention them specifically. I'm talking about maybe 3/4 of the stock market that is booming because of these AI chips. But these chatbots are wrong half of the time, and these evaluations aren't justified. And I think we'll be seeing the consequences of that.
I wanted to kind of wrap back into the end of this talk about Elon and Doge because I think people's fear, this terror that people are feeling, is that what's going to happen is this unelected bureaucrat has been appointed into office, and he's going to be able to go into an agency and fire people without any congressional authority. He's not a bureaucrat. Well, he works with, he's like a CEO of Tesla, of X. He owns $8 billion
just clarify, he's not a bureaucrat.
How do you define bureaucrat?
Bureaucrat is like an HR administrator who's like, hey, I want to come in here and use this room for Friday. Okay, well, fill out Form H3B, then go speak with John over in administration, and he'll get you. That's a bureaucrat. Okay. And so the deep bureaucracy that people refer to at the deep state is that, as we saw with the James O'Keefe undercover videos, Trump says, hey, we want to, say, pull all of our troops out of Syria. Or RFK is a better example. The guy said, RFK will say, let's get Florida out of water. And they'll go, okay, we're going to put together the commission to figure out how to do this. These are the people who are hired and basically just create bloat and obstacles to actually doing what RFK says just do.
Yeah, and in fact, Elon made that point that the bureaucracy is a government that is run by the bureau, and he wants a democracy. So he wants to bring it, or the meritocracy, not a bureaucracy. So he wants to get away from the bureaucrats running the bureau, running the government. I agree with that. But people are afraid that a guy that was unelected has been appointed. He's a billionaire businessman, and he's going to now have the unadulterated authority to go from organization to
it's a lie.
Department and fire people.
It's a lie. It's a lie. It's fake.
I don't think he can. That's the thing. I know that the way I've been doing a lot of research, and I posted a great post on X if you want to follow up on this. He's been appointed. The Doge, the department, was basically U.S. Digital Services. Trump renamed it U.S. Doge Services. It's the same organization that Obama created in 2014. It was legally created. It's legally there. He appointed Elon Musk as a special government employee as the I haven't seen an official appointment. So as far as I know, US Doge Services doesn't have a current administrator. I think Elon's acting as de facto administrator. He might officially be there, but if you search for it, they give you the old administrator. And he's doing legal appointments. He's allowed to work for 130 days a year in that capacity as the administrator of Doge.
He is not the administrator of Doge.
I don't think there is one right now, which is concerning me.
So let's clarify. When you said he's allowed to work for a certain amount of time, it's irrelevant because he's not.
And why does it concern you?
Well, you said because if he's doing the job de facto, but he's not technically appointed, That makes me nervous.
Why?
But why is
Because you're supposed to follow the law and appoint the person to do the job. If they're doing it off the record, that's very dangerous for our country.
well, he's an advisor. He's an advisor to the president. The president can select whoever he wants as an advisor.
He's very concerned with process.
To give us
That's what it sounds like.
argument,
Ian wants bureaucracy.
I think
Well,
to give,
I'm like Thomas Massey like this. I'm obsessed with the process, and you need in the integrity of the process.
Let me ask you a question. Can Trump ask a friend for advice?
Of course.
So we're done. There's nothing wrong with it.
If that was all that was happening, but Elon was actually hired as a special government employee.
He's not getting
He's
paid.
not even paid.
Not, but you can hire a special government employee with or without pay.
yeah, he's still a special advisor.
So
I
he was
think-
hired legally to do a legal job.
I want to know what that was.
And what's
exactly.
happening now is, I'm going to shout out, I was watching The Daily Show last night, right?
Shout out
And
Jon Stewart. Yeah,
They literally, in the opening of the show, it says TDS in big bold letters, for real. And they were doing this segment called Is It Legal? And they kept saying things that Elon or Trump had done. And then this guy is increasingly, with surrounded by books and messy glasses, going, I don't know if it's legal. And I just want to clarify something for you, Ian. And I want to clarify something for everyone listening. The question is not supposed to be, is it legal? The question you need to answer that has no bearing on what we do or want is it illegal? Because the reality is, we do not operate in this country upon fear of something not being legal. If it is not explicitly illegal, you can do it. If it is codified in law that is illegal to do or unlawful, then you cannot. So when Elon Musk does things and they're not codified in law as crimes or unethical or anything like that, asking the question, is it legal, is a waste of our time and is imposing upon free American individuals some kind of responsibility to the government to check with them if we're allowed to take actions. No, it is the other way around. The government's beholden to us. If Congress wants to pass a law and write it down and say, you can't do this, there's no question of, is it legal? We do things as we see it. And if you got a problem, what did we find? They're trying to pass a new bill, the Elon Musk Act. That's right. Because what Elon is doing is totally legal and there's no law saying he can't do it.
That's what I'm wondering. So the executive order that Trump created Doge with, it mandates that Doge has an administrator that reports to the White House chief of staff. And I don't know who that administrator is. In order for this organization to function, it needs an administrator. I suppose it would just default to the president until he appoints one.
Let's just pause real quick. Who cares about that organization?
Well, that's the organization that's credited with doing the work right now.
So what?
So who's running it?
Who cares?
I do, man.
For what
And
reason?
So should everyone.
Why?
Because that's the process of our government. If you're going to, through executive order, create an agency that says you need an administrator, but then you never appoint one, what the hell is going on?
Where does it say you need an administrator for
It
that?
says it in the executive order in section 3B. Read down. It's section 2. It's in section 2 of the executive order. We can pull it up. It says, here, I'll pull up the executive order right now.
If you were to
Doge
ask,
structure, reorganization, and rename, section 3.
It is not a budgeted part of the United States government, which requires approval from Congress.
3B, section 3.
No, let me pause again.
Say that again.
The U.S. Digital Service, despite its name, is not a budgeted part of the U.S. government, which requires approval from the United States Congress.
Correct. It was created by executive order by Obama.
So it is not a budgeted part of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
So that means it's operating under only executive order, so Trump can literally do what he wants as the executive.
Well, he signed the executive order that it says the establishment of a temporary organization there should be a U.S. Doge Services Administrator established in the executive office of the president who shall report to the White House chief of staff. That's section 3B of the executive order.
You would feel more comfortable if he did another executive order saying, okay, we don't need an administrator.
Or if he appointed someone as the administrator publicly.
This is, I got to be honest, you're arguing like,
Well, if it's
the door is supposed to be locked, but you have a deadbolt. It's like a deadbolt is a lock, and it's not the lock I
I'm
was talking
steel
about.
manning the argument that it's illegal. I want to make sure that
not
we
illegal.
seal this up so that it can't be broken up in court and undone.
I think you're getting into nuance that quite literally not even the Democrats are getting into in terms of their complaints.
I don't know, man. Maybe not. Maybe not.
I think the arguments against Elon Musk is that he has many interests that the government is also involved in, and there's a conflict of interest there. He also has many business interests abroad. So, for example, he has SpaceX here, obviously Tesla here. He also has mega Tesla factories in China. So these are conflicts of interest down the line that could be an issue.
If the government
is the best argument I could think. I also do think Doge and Elon Musk is doing a good job.
I think
but there
so, too.
are credible arguments that this
is the
is a
concern
conflict
is
of
that if the
interest,
president by executive order sets up a department that oversees tech companies and then they hire a special government employee that happens to be the CEO of a tech company to oversee that organization that oversees tech companies while he's still the CEO of a tech company, you've got a big conflict of interest.
Well, what if Xi
potentially.
Jinping just starts penalizing Elon Musk's mega factories in China? Then Elon Musk will feel the pain, and he would, hypothetically try to get Trump to work with them to stop, him penalizing him in China.
Wait,
Do you understand that?
No, say that again.
The issue with Elon Musk is that he has many business interests, domestic and abroad, that could potentially influence his thinking when talking to Trump. So, for example, in China, he has many mega Tesla factories. And if Xi Jinping wanted to penalize Elon Musk, he could hypothetically make it harder for him to do business in these factories. And that could influence the way Elon Musk would try to get Trump to negotiate on Xi Jinping with.
Yeah.
Not stopping
Does
Trump,
that make
'cause he's
sense
doing
here?
the
Am I
10%
doing
import tariff from China? So,
But the
Yeah, but I don't know if that hit the Tesla stuff specifically. And
because Tesla doesn't really import from their factories
beyond the
in China
international
either.
stuff, even domestically, Elon Musk has a lot of business interests with SpaceX, where he has to work closely with the government. So the argument would be that having a close advisor who has so many interests with the government could be a conflict. of
Yeah, it
interest.
doesn't mean
Not
that it's illegal.
Elon Musk,
It's still
no,
legal.
not illegal, but it's conflict of interest.
It could be a conflict of interest.
It is a conflict of interest.
I think the issue here, I'll just give you my perspective, is this is a degree of granular bureaucratic debate that matters nothing to me. My concern is that we have departments like USAID and was it the National Endowment for Democracy or whatever. We have these activist organizations around the world that are being funded to the tune of massive amounts of money. And so when I see Elon Musk go in and be like, hey guys, did you realize they just gave like $8 million over the past, they're $1 million a year to this news organization for bloated subscriptions? I go, oh wow, why are we wasting that money? I don't care if it's a substantial portion of the revenue of that company. I just think I'd rather give all of that $8 million to a single 9/11 first responder in need of help. Literally, let's just do that. How about that? Let's all agree that instead of spending $30 million or whatever the number is in various media subscriptions, we just give that to one first responder or one veteran. I think that's just a better use of our time. So anyway, my point is this. Elon Musk is going in as effectively an advisor to the president, as a special employee. Trump could do it himself, but he's a busy guy. He has the authority to do it himself, but he's a busy guy. So he says, Elon, you've got business experience. Go and find the bloat. And we have found so much insane bloat. Teaching Moroccans pottery. For real. That was a really funny one I heard.
They've been doing it for thousands of years.
Right?
They need help.
There's one where it's spreading atheism in Pakistan, I think, or something like that. There was one where it was doing gender-themed plays in Peru or something. So when Elon's like, hey, this is $40 million of your money going to these programs, I go, that's a really big problem. And then, Ian, with all due respect, you come and say, but is Elon allowed to point this out? And I'm like, well, Trump could point it out, but Trump asked Elon to do it. So I really don't care about the nuance or the granular bureaucratic debate of how do we, through the parliamentarian process, formalize Elon Musk when not even Democrats care about that.
There are times when I think that we talked about this last night, that breaking the law is the only way to move forward, like suspension of habeas corpus after the Civil War. They just dispensed with the Constitution and were like, we're just going to do what we need to do to
Yeah, that was
establish
wrong.
order. Well, but it worked.
Did
And
it?
Apparently.
Well, not apparently. It's a
established
question
order.
of what did it do? No. What did the suspension of habeas corpus do?
It allowed the government to do crazy stuff.
Where and why?
I don't know the specifics, but I
Exactly.
know that they dispensed with the Constitution for a short period of
The
time.
suspension of habeas corpus was a corridor between D.C. and Pennsylvania, specifically because Maryland was a slave state and they needed access to D.C. and they were concerned that the sympathies of Maryland would interfere with their ability to move troops to protect D.C. So they said from this corridor, from here to down here, in this area, don't mess with the U.S. We are at war. And there was an instance where a random guy got locked up and he refused to play ball, and they held him until the war was over and let him go. There was an instance where they went and arrested a bunch of the state representatives from Maryland for having Southern sympathies. These things I don't feel were good. And I don't know that we have evidence that doing that actually improved the efforts. To be fair, you can say the U.S. government is securing this corridor under martial law. But the argument that the general suspension of habeas corpus was a good thing that needed to happen, I don't know that that's true.
I know. And in this situation, if they feel like, look, we have been subjugated by a business class, by bureaucracy since 1913, the Federal Reserve, these bureaucrats have taken over our country. We need to suspend some sort of metaphorical habeas corpus to get our country back. I mean, and they're willing to break the law. The jury's out on whether or not that's a good thing, because it's the first step on a slippery slope. If you do it now, you think the next president's not going to go do it? They probably will. So you got to be real careful about adhering to every letter of the law. That's why I'm bringing it up.
We have long maintained this position of, but guys, the Democrats are doing bad thing, and if we try to stop them, then what happens if later on someone else uses the powers we created to do bad thing as well? What that ignores in the slippery slope argument is that a bad thing is currently happening. So the Democrats are abusing the system, spending money with reckless abandon to burn everything down and spread their crackpot Marxist ideology. And we go, wait, if we stop them doing evil, later in the future, someone else might do evil. And I say, okay, when that happens, we will fight against that evil the same as we fight against this evil right now. That's the only thing I see. Because otherwise you end up with these scenarios where it's like, we better not implement this new policy lest they use it against us. And it's like, but they're using evil things against us right now.
This is sort of the
argument.
argument.
You have to just win the culture war.
Yeah, like you've got in Dungeons and Dragons, it's kind of a silly metaphor. You got law and chaos. You know, you get to pick how lawful do I want to be, how chaotic. You get to pick on that scale. And I'm sort of in the middle. Like if a law is evil, then you should not do it. The Nazis, for instance, made all that crap they were doing legal in Germany. People people that were hiding Jews in their attic and stuff were basically violating the law to do good. So you've got your law versus chaos, and then you've got your good versus evil. And you can be chaotic as hell and be really good. And that's Robin Hood.
Ian, there's breaking news.
Good.
Elon just announced that he's going to be redirecting the USAID funds into graphene production so long as Ian stops calling him out.
The Robin Hood of graphene.
Let's jump to this next story, ladies and gentlemen. We got this from the Post Millennial. Rep. Ilhan Omar advises Somali immigrants not to comply with ICE deportations. We then have this video from Libs of TikTok. Rep. Dan Goldman is now putting out videos in Chinese instructing illegal aliens how to evade ICE. Why is he trying to protect Chinese murderers, spies, and criminals who are in our country illegally? Well, let me show you this. This is 1907, Title 8 USC 1324A offenses, which includes something called encouraging or inducing, subsection 1324A1A4, makes it an offense for any person who encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of the law. In other words, Rep. Dan Goldman, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and many other Democrats are quite literally violating a federal law which has a penalty for inducement of up to 5 years in prison. So I really doubt the DOJ is going to come after these people and put them in prison.
It would be
but
nice.
They're quite literally breaking federal law by doing this. And so my question to all of you as we jump into this story, what happens if we don't enforce this law? And we tell Democrats as a large political class, you can break it.
Well, it's arguable if they are breaking. So, for example, if they are saying, and this goes out to all my illegal immigrant friends out there, and I'm telling you this, that would probably be breaking the law. But if they're saying, hey, a lot of people who aren't illegals, people who are maybe asylum people and other various like legal status, migrants are getting caught up in this sort of stuff, and they're telling it for those people, and maybe it could apply to illegals, that would not necessarily be illegal.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if that's actually the case or not. And I'm not sure exactly how they're articulating, like what they're actually saying. There are people that are saying, oh, well, if they're just informing people of their right to remain silent, that's not illegal. And I'm not so sure that it isn't because these people are residing here. Good.
Let's just take a pause real quick. If a guy walked into a bank and went to the teller and said, can you please, with expedience, empty out that drawer and fill this sack up for me? When the police show up to arrest him for bank robbery and he goes, I wasn't robbing them. I just asked them if they would give me their money. And they said, yes. Do you think that's going to fly in court?
That particular circumstance, probably not. But
so the issue at play is the question is going to be, do Ilhan Omar and does AOC and Dan Goldman know that the information they are giving specifically is aiding and abetting illegal immigrants. And I think any reasonable person would be like, well, of course they're talking about illegal immigrants. ICE isn't going after legal immigrants.
No, but they've been citing cases where that has been the case. And a lot of the people that they're saying, for example...
I'm gonna pause. Do you actually believe that AOC, Goldman, and Omar are specifically trying to inform legal residents of the United States their legal rights?
I think in their opinion, a lot of them are, for example, the Haitian stuff. I'll give you, the Haitian stuff. When Trump was citing the Haitian migrants in Ohio and everything, a lot of people on the Republican side are saying those are illegal migrants. The Democrats are like, no, those people came in through legal programs, whatever. I think a lot of us would argue, well, those were under the Biden administration. They like made illegal immigration.
I understand
legal.
that.
So there is a distinction.
Do you
there.
actually think that Ilhan Omar, in this story specifically, is looking at legally residing Somali migrants?
It's not about what you think. It's about what you can prove in court.
And that's my point. So when you say it's questionable as to whether they broke the law, sure, but it doesn't matter. Because I think any reasonable person knows they're not talking about legal residents who are scared of ICE. Because if you're a legal resident and ICE shows up to you, say, here's my green card, here's my ID, what's the problem? They say, have a nice day. When they're saying don't talk to them, that advice only applies to someone who does not have legal status.
I mean, that's what I would say. I think they're doing it for illegals, but I'm just saying from a prosecutorial perspective.
I think it depends on your jurisdiction. If you go to New York, the jury is going to say, can we nullify this because we want illegal immigrants here? But the simple...
I'm not so sure about that in New York.
Fair point. Now it's really this simple. If you had a jury of 12 individuals, of regular random people, and said, do you genuinely believe that when Dan Goldman spoke Mandarin, advising people how to avoid ICE and immigration enforcement, do you believe his intention was to provide relevant legal information to legally residing Americans? No one says yes.
Well, I got to push a little on it, even unfortunately, because I'm enjoying this. It's like people saying, don't talk to the cops. Even if you're done nothing wrong, don't talk to the cops. And this might be a similar, like you could argue this is a similar thing.
I think
it is not, because first, when it comes to telling someone don't talk to the cops, that's a general broad statement that applies to all Americans of all status, whether they've committed crimes or not. When you say specifically immigrations and customs enforcement is coming to deport illegal immigrants, if they approach you, do not talk to them. We are talking about people who are actively committing a crime, and you advising them on how to avoid, which is specifically codified in laws, inducing them to reside in this country. If you went to someone, so there are other questions in other crimes being committed. If someone had a bag of drugs on them and you said, you've got drugs on you? Yo, bro, you got crack and cocaine? That's a felony. They're going to catch you. And when they do, you will go to prison. Let me give you some advice to help you avoid law enforcement. You can actually get in trouble for that.
Yep.
If you're a lawyer and you said, look, and now actually there's an interesting question about, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you guys know this. If a person is actively in the process of committing a crime and you're a lawyer, is the lawyer required to report that? I would hope they would. I think I don't know. It's so lawyers are, so if you're a criminal, legit criminal, and you tell your lawyer, yes, I committed that crime, the lawyer can't, I'm pretty sure the lawyers aren't supposed to go out and say, but I don't know though. I don't know. That could be wrong. Like, I know therapists have to report it, but the issue at play here, there's specifically a law saying encouragement or inducement to reside illegally in the U.S. or with reckless disregard as to whether it would be legal or not. It's very broad. But I think it's fair to say we understand what these Democrats are doing. Trump is going after violent criminals, people who already broke the law, and Democrats are saying we will provide you with materials to avoid detection, inducing them to reside here.
Well, in your drug example, I'm not sure, but I don't think it would be illegal to say, look, you just inform someone of their rights, even though you know they might have committed a crime. Like, you're allowed to inform people of their rights. But if you said, for example, if your way of helping them is, hey, if you go hide in these specific locations or you do this or that, that's probably illegal. But if you would just inform people of their rights when it comes to dealing with law enforcement, I don't think that would necessarily constitute a crime.
I do think lawyers are required to report if their clients are actively committing crimes.
Well, I think they're still allowed to represent them. It's just the argument has to change. So it's like if your client murdered someone, you would say, yes, he killed, this individual, but you have to you say there's like a mitigating circumstance and you try to get a lower sentence, or maybe not guilty by reason of insanity. I don't know. Like
The thing here is that I think they're obfuscating really hard with the immigrants versus illegal immigrants. Even in this post-millennial article, they're saying Somali immigrants. So if they're not talking to illegals, I don't know what the exact argument would be. Here's the thing. None of us are lawyers, but I'll tell you who is one. Dan Goldman. He graduated from Stanford, and he was actually one of the impeachment prosecutors, I think, for one of the Trump cases. So I'm sure this guy knows what he's doing. The thing, too, here is that it's a total virtue signal. I don't think anybody's reading Dan Goldman's Chinese tweet about, like, who is a Chinese person in Chinatown and using that information to try to avoid police. And I have full confidence in our police and ICE service members that they will be able to get the job done, despite, Ilhan Omar giving hints about, not opening the door or what have you.
And what actually helps their defense is how kind of like alarmist they've been with their language, like saying Trump's going to deport everyone who's an immigrant, like not even stipulating illegal or whatever. They're just like, if you're just brown in America, they want to deport you and kill you. So that would probably help them in a court of law.
I would need to hear specifics about what Ilhan said in this instance for this to see, like, did she incite them to continue to break the law? Did she focus
there's a
on
quote
illegal?
right there. They have.
I advise the Somalian people that if ICE attempts to question you, you are not obligated to answer the question.
That's a
It's kinda
legal
like
statement.
That's like a don't talk to cops type statement.
But right, and so there's a difference in that it is codified as a crime to induce someone to reside illegally in the U.S. That's the distinction. It is not codified anywhere that inducing someone, like telling someone drugs are cool or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's not illegal. Giving your opinion on those things. But if someone is not a legal resident here and you are telling them they can stay, here's how you avoid detection from law enforcement. That may be inducement under the law.
Yeah, that's illegal.
In these instances, it's
Well, I mean, everything is maybe because you have to prove it in a court.
Well, no, we actually don't know if doing this particular thing would be, like, even if it was just outright, like, I am informing illegal immigrants of their rights when it comes to law enforcement. I still don't think that necessarily would be illegal.
Oh yeah, but if she said illegal immigrants should reside, like if she starts to tell
This is
them,
why
that's an
they never
opinion.
say
You
the
can
word
have that
illegal.
opinion.
This is why they say when Trump is like, there's violent criminals who enter the country illegally, they go, Trump hates immigrants.
But that was the one, 8 U.S. Code 1324 is what you were talking about, right, Tim? Because
Yeah.
yes. So it says any person who encourages or induces an alien to come to enter or reside in, encourages to reside in.
or induces.
That's not giving someone legal advice when it comes to their rights, when it comes to law enforcement, is not you necessarily encouraging them to reside in the United States. It might have the effect of them residing if they're successful or whatever, but it doesn't, like, that's more of a matter of process.
So all the NGOs, here's the thing.
yeah,
The bus drivers in Arizona that were loading up with illegal immigrants and bringing them in, they need to go to prison.
Oh, this is interesting because people are terrified of political retribution right now, and we got to be real specific. Like prosecutorial discretion's key.
Donald Trump and the DOJ needs to find those bus drivers that were ferrying illegal immigrants into the country, and they knew they were because James O'Keefe exposed them, and put them in prison.
I would, if they were doing it still, I would agree on the spot. But because they were doing it under the authority of
they knew it was wrong.
president,
Watch the videos from James O'Keefe. They panic when they find out that they have been filmed breaking the law. They knew what they were doing was illegal, and they did it anyway because they got cash for it. Lock them up.
Yep.
I think Tom Homan should take this as a challenge. Hey, whenever
were
you hear
they
Ilhan
illegal or
Omar-
asylum seekers? I don't know.
Well, that's how they try to obfuscate. And then you were spot on earlier when you mentioned how Joe Biden legalized a lot of citizens. That
I think
illegal.
the pilots of aircraft who knew they had illegal immigrants on their planes should also be charged.
I mean, it was definitely an unethical thing to do.
It was a fact during the past 4 years that there were commercial flights where pilots knew they were ferrying large amounts of illegal immigrants across the country. You also had the story where into Tennessee, I think it was, they were taking illegal immigrant children, putting them on planes and flying them into various cities. One of the big stories was Westchester, New York. In the middle of the night, illegal immigrants were being ferried into these places, some using government taxpayer money, People flew those planes.
You know, it's very similar.
People serviced those flights, and they should have said no.
Should we criminally charge Greg Abbott for busing all the illegal migrants to New York?
There's a question about that.
That's actually
Between him
not
and
a bad
DeSantis,
point.
bro, I don't like what they're doing here. So,
To be fair, they were trying to deport them, and Biden wouldn't let them.
hey, Tish James, secure our borders here in New York. Mayor Adams is constantly complaining about this. You got to go after the guys. What?
Here in New York?
He's from New York.
Oh, yeah.
He's a New Yorker. It's kind of like after the Civil War, they really did kind of have the authority to imprison all those Confederates. All the ones that fought, they could have been like
Authority?
yeah, like they
won a war.
Insurrection. Like you guys all were part of an insurrection. They could have imprisoned and destroyed.
But let's just
humanity
pause real quick
across
and make
the
something
South.
clear. The winners of a war do what they want to the losers.
And they could
So we don't
have
need to make
obliterated
this
it.
doesn't need, there's no legal precedent for it's not a legal codified law issue of when you get to go to war. War happens. And so what you're really saying is the Confederates were conquered and the Union could have done whatever they wanted, as were the words of Ulysses S. Grant when he said, you have a right to revolt, but when you lose, you will be ruled over by your betters.
So it's a similar, much less magnitude what we're experiencing right now with people that broke the law, escorting illegal migrants across the country and into the country. They were doing, what you could consider after the fact a violation of law, but like, do you prosecute and imprison them all? Because it's similar with the Confederates. You could have really went after them, and they didn't because they wanted reunification.
And give them court supervision.
We're back to the Civil War again.
But here's what happens. They go to court. They stand in front of the jury of their peers, and when they're convicted, the judge says, we're going to give you court supervision and a $50 fine. You were ferrying illegals, and that's going to be on your record.
Also, the left is going to attempt to impeach Donald Trump again should they take the House in 2 years.
100%.
There will be continuation of lawfare. All the stuff that was happening under Biden's presidency, if a Democrat wins after Donald Trump, all of that stuff's going to go back into effect. So they'll go after the media again. They're going to go after Trump's family. They're going to go after people that are in the Trump administration. They will go after Elon Musk. This is all guaranteed.
This is an example of you manifesting
Let's jump to the story. Let's jump to the story from Vibe. Donald Trump faces first articles of impeachment second term. It has begun, ladies and gentlemen. Rep. Al Green. He has begun.
And still I rise,
Sure does.
Mr. Speaker. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, with a to whom it may concern message. To whom it may concern, ethnic cleansing in Gaza is not a joke, especially when it emanates from the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, when he has the ability to perfect what he says.
Well, I don't care about his grandstanding.
Injustice, I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
This is the future.
I also rise to say,
I don't care what else you got to say, buddy.
It's kind of vague.
That gold-plated cane is really...
This is what American politics are going to be moving forward.
It's so backwards.
Is
because
politics singular or plural?
It's both.
Yeah.
I thought that same thing. You could say politics is great. I think it's that. Politics is
Anyway,
great.
Elon. Sorry.
I was going to say the real backwards and ironic thing here is that Trump is trying to bring a historic peace to the Middle East, where he's really taken conventional wisdom and flipped it on his head. And he would continue to be a historic figure and be a more historic figure after bringing peace to Gaza, and that's what they're going to try to impeach him for.
When he said he wanted to buy Gaza to take
Buy?
No.
He didn't say buy.
No. They're
he didn't say
not.
buy, you're right.
They are not trying to impeach him for what he's doing in Gaza. They're trying to impeach him because he is the opposition, and the what he's doing in Gaza is simply the excuse. They impeached him 2 times after he was elected. They are impeaching him because he is actually a representative of the American people, and he is not a member of the approved deep state, whatever you want to call it, the approved elite class. It has nothing to do with Gaza, and it has everything to do with he is doing things to the entrenched bureaucracy and the quote unquote deep state that they find offensive. It is not about Gaza at all.
It's not going to go.
It's not
going to go anywhere. The Republicans control the House.
Yeah, exactly.
They did, MTG did it with Biden or whatever. Like, it's not going to.
I mean, look, it may not, but if the Republicans don't hold the House in the midterms, there will be articles of impeachment drawn up. I bet anything.
Agreed.
Because this is going to be the future.
Well, won't go anywhere in the
They're
Senate.
drawing them up already.
Yeah.
But they're not going to make it anywhere. And this guy's done this before.
It's good on him politically. I'm sure he'll be able to go back to his district. There are 450 some odd reps, and he's going to go back to his district and said, "Hey, I drafted up articles of impeachment against the fascist who's deporting all of our brothers and migrants here in town."
The point is, this is going to continue to degrade the quality of our politics and the quality of our representatives, and it will probably end up with the United States becoming another basket case of a country in the long run, unless we can prevent these kind of people from being elected, but we have an electorate that continues to keep electing them.
Well, you got to be responsible with what you're telling people is going to happen.
I can talk about stuff as I see it.
You're
It's not-
assuming right now.
Of course I'm assuming that he's
So that doesn't
literally
mean it's true.
He's literally saying
Are
it,
you
dude.
saying that Phil's assuming if the Democrats win the midterms, they'll impeach him?
Yes.
It's literally what they did in Trump's first term, and that's called prediction.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Assumptive prediction. Yes.
And the idea that that I should be reprimanded for articulating.
Just be
these
responsible with
ideas.
what you're saying.
That's
If you-
exactly
if you
what I'm
want
doing.
that to happen, go push it, man. But if you don't want that to happen, create
What?
a better reality.
You're out of your
literally-
mind.
They're literally
and I'm
filing
not
to
going
impeach him right now.
I'm absolutely not going to hold my tongue about ideas just because you think things can manifest. Sorry, homie. That ain't
What do you think you're doing with your spell?
I'm
your words?
articulating my spell.
Yeah, you spell
Yo,
words.
Listen, nobody can change the weather, Ian. I cannot make things manifest in the world just because I'm talking about them. That is ridiculous. Okay, I don't believe I don't believe in that stuff at all, dude.
Phil,
Doesn't
I
mean
don't.
it's not real.
Phil,
You can change the
Ian manifested the 51st state of Gaza.
Dude, you go on TV and tell 500,000 people something's going to happen. You don't think that they're going to self-fulfilling prophecy that stuff?
I don't care how much you don't like what I'm saying. I do not give one crap about you worrying about spooky things going on because I said something. I'm going to articulate what I think is possible or likely, whether you like it or not.
Okay, possible or likely is way better than saying it will happen.
Let's just make a bet. $1,000.
It's just, it's up to us, man. You have a microphone. You
Put
have
your
the
money where your
power to
mouth is.
change people's minds.
Up the stakes, Mitt Romney level, $10,000.
Yeah, I'm
think
pretty
it's about
sure.
money.
I'm pretty sure that if Polymarket made a market for if Democrats win the midterms, they will impeach Donald Trump, it would be 100%. It'd be 98.
And maybe it already exists. I don't know.
Let's look it up. Will Trump get impeached? Polymarket.
Yep.
What's the?
All right. So this is not with the this is not including winning the midterms, however. And this market.
What's the time on this?
So right now,
the whole term.
Will Trump be impeached in 2025? 12%. That's a terrible bet.
Oh,
because-
that's this year.
right. That's what I'm saying. It's not. Let me see if I can do a search on Trump impeachment and see what they offer up. Why isn't this not?
Is there one for his term?
Yeah, there is. It's what I have, but there's nothing here.
Oh.
So let's do impeach. Will Trump? There's only one market, and it's will Trump be impeached this year? So they don't have it. They do not have it. However, it's fair to say that any reasonable individual, based on literally what happened the first time, and literally the same guy filing the same articles like he did the first time, if the Democrats win the midterms, they will file to impeach Trump immediately. Immediately.
It's very opportunistic for Democrats to impeach Trump because whoever does it, whoever is the prosecutor in that, will have political clout after that. So for example, we were talking about Dan Goldman earlier. He was the prosecutor in one of the Trump impeachments and went on to run for public office. So there's a lot of opportunity here for a lot of Dems to advance their career by going at Trump.
When it comes to assuming the future, I think there are a lot of safe things to assume. Like the sun will come up tomorrow. I will take a piss later. Like you can make basic assumptions that are pretty obvious, and this might be one that, like, look, it's just the nature of
he
politics.
literally already filed. He's already announced he's filing these, and the only thing he's missing now is the majority in the House to actually get the vote on it.
So, but there are things that might seem like, hey, it happened in the past, therefore, but with the power of mass media, like, and mass formation,
I do not believe that Democrats are all going to watch this clip of Phil saying, "Oh no, they'll impeach," and then they go, "Oh my God, Phil's right. We should impeach Trump."
If they're getting their political plays from Phil on Timcast IRL.
But the opposite of his point. They're like, whatever Phil says, I'll do the opposite. He said we're going to impeach. Guess we should.
I could see a rationale for Dems to actually not impeach Trump, because I think some of the rationale the first time, is, well, we can prevent him. Like, we could just dirty his name so much that he won't have the political capital to win another re-election. He'll be dead in the Republican Party. MAGA is dead. Well, now that they saw it actually kind of helped him.
Yeah.
And the American people were kind of pissed that Dems wasted all this time and political capital on the impeachment. To have them do that again, I think they would lose a lot of support, and I think it might be counterproductive.
I hope you're right. I would like to
see I kind of think that what we're witnessing right now is Donald Trump's march to the sea. I think that Trump has routed the deep state, and now he is just smashing through the institutions and raising their farms and raising their fields. It doesn't mean the war is over, but this is the point at which I don't know the deep state recovers from the gutting of USAID, CIA getting mass buyouts, FBI agents getting... The FBI sued Trump. They sued the admin to stop the surveys from going out, and the FBI delivered a list of 5,000 agents who were working on the January 6th. So it's over. The lawsuit's now moot. Judge is going to be like, he's already got the information. Why are you suing? So that's it. This is political scorched earth strategy that Trump is doing.
And Marco Rubio a couple days ago said that in 5 years we won't be talking about tariffs anymore because the U.S. dollar will no longer have the power that it has anymore. Like we've left the unipolar world now. He's saying, like, he gave it a 5-year time window, that the Russian BRICS, it's just become so powerful that this whole paradigm is like, to think that we're the ones in charge is kind of, it's losing its fervor.
That'd be a dark, dark day on planet
see
Earth. Yeah, I didn't see Rubio say that either.
Yeah, it's
on video?
Yeah, I saw it a couple days ago.
Can you tell me one more time? He said the dollar was going to be dead
in 5 years. We will no longer be discussing tariffs because they won't have any effect.
Right, because we're going to be on Bitcoin.
That would be nice.
True.
Eric Trump tweeted something like, now's a good time to get Ethereum.
Yes, yesterday.
He said that yesterday?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they were working in the administration on something about, what did they say? Tax-free American crypto?
Yeah, a Solana, I think Ripple was in.
I think you said Ethereum.
Cardano.
Right?
You didn't mention Ethereum.
Cardano was one.
HBAR was another one.
These American-based cryptocurrencies will be tax-exempt on capital gains. I don't know if that's true, though.
He said
I own some Cardano, full disclosure.
A conference in the Middle East somewhere. It was either the United Arab Emirates. Were you able to find?
I wasn't able to find anything.
I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah.
It was like part of a speech thing he was giving. By the way,
because that would mean his time in state was a complete failure if that was the case. Yeah. He might as well be saying, "Hey, I'm about to do the worst job ever, and you should probably fire me right now," because that's where a lot of American power comes from. That would mean sanctions don't do anything. A lot of American power derives around the dollar.
That's
being
what
the global reserve.
He said it's why I think sanctions, not tariffs. Sanctions will no longer. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sanctions won't work anymore in 5 years.
Rubio's upset that the U.S. will no longer be able to oppose sanctions as they switch from the settlement in dollars to other national currencies. And then, quote, in 5 years, we'll no longer be able to talk about sanctions.
This is the whole reason that I talk about mandatory spending. Like the reason that the U.S. won't have the reserve currency anymore is too many countries will move to other things because they don't believe that the U.S. is going to remain solvent in the long term. Because we have to fix Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid.
I can't remember which institution, but they're predicting in Trump's first term, Bitcoin hits 500,000.
Sick.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know, whatever. But there's a lot of speculation that what Donald Trump is doing in terms of tariffs and international trade isn't so much about Trump's retribution. It's about Trump rushing in to try and put out a fire that can't be stopped. And there's concern that the movement away from the petrodollar, the BRICS nations, and all these things, it's just it's a snowball rolling down a hill. And Trump's coming in and he's trying to throw a rope around it, but that ain't going to do nothing. I don't know.
The U.S. debt clock's pretty interesting. They got a Doge clock on it now.
Yeah, how much we're being saved.
Looks like we're accruing about $50,000 a second in debt.
And it was funny because Elon was like, I don't know how they figured this out, but it's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
there it
Doge
is.
clock.
And it looks like the Doge is saving us about the same amount
billion
that
so
the debt's
far.
going up. I don't know if that means that the debt has been cut in half. It's going up half as fast because I don't know if the Doge is like subtracted from the debt.
The
or
Doge
it
is
would
how much
have
has been
to.
saved, but the
Yeah.
debt is still going up.
and it's going up. You can kind of calculate it 50,000 a second roughly. In the Doge clock, 40,000 a second.
If you take the Doge clock away, the actual national debt just goes up faster.
Does it?
Yeah, the
I was trying to
national
figure
debt
that
is
out.
going up. The national debt is going up that fast, even with Doge slowing the rate of
I
increase.
wonder that because 2 years ago it was still going up 50,000 a second. Like the Doge clock hasn't seemed to slow it
Yeah,
down.
but 2 years ago the interest rate was different, and 2 years ago you had less money that was accruing interest.
So it might
It's
be-
actually it's parabolic. And not only does it go up all the time, but it goes up faster and faster and faster because you're adding not only money to it, but the interest rate. Well, I'm not sure. The interest rate varies, but you're adding money that's all accruing interest. So as you add more money to the principal that you've borrowed, the interest rate continues to accelerate.
And the spending goes up, the budgets go up. Yeah.
I couldn't tell. I still can't tell. What you're saying is interesting, Phil. That's the one idea. But like before that Doge clock got put on, it was basically going up at the same speed. A year ago, it was going up at 50K a second, and it hasn't.
Same is better than faster.
Yeah.
So I mean, if those are if the Doge clock is not interfering with the debt, that would mean that it's basically saving our debt increase. And our debt's actually not going up right now.
No, our debt is going up. Listen, like I was saying the other night, or like I say a lot, like the things that Doge is cutting are all discretionary spending. So it's a small portion of the annual expenditures by the federal government. The thing that drives the debt, the really big driver of debt, is the mandatory spending, which is Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid. Those are the things that need to get fixed. Those are the things that are going to make the United States insolvent. Those are the things that are actually an existential threat to the United States. You could cut all of you could abolish the whole government and have zero discretionary spending, but you'd still have, as long as you had the administration of Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, you're still insolvent.
Do you know what percent it is of our debt is that?
Is the Social Security?
Yeah.
Well, of the,
It depends on if
budget,
you're
it's like
including.
2/3.
Are you
isn't it?
including discretionary spending or not?
Without discretionary spending.
Without
Medicare,
discretionary, I
Medicaid.
think it's even bigger than that because I think with non-discretionary, it's around
I
2/3.
see.
It's
Wow.
it's huge, and it continues to go up. It doesn't get smaller because more people go on to Social Security every day. The baby boomers are retiring, so all these people are being added to the Social Security rolls, Medicare and Medicaid rolls. And you have people that, it's a smaller percentage, but people that have any kind of Social Security benefit, if they're injured and they can't work and they get government benefits, that all goes under the same thing. That's all mandatory.
And to explain the difference between mandatory and non-mandatory, as I understand, mandatory
Discretionary.
is discretionary or non-discretionary is
Mandatory and discretionary.
okay.
Those are the
Well,
two.
mandatory is where it's written in law that they have
Yes.
to spend it on the specific things.
Yes.
And the thing too about Social Security is that it's very difficult, near impossible to reform. It's kind of the third rail of politics because everybody would vote against you if you chose to reform Social Security.
Which-
so that's part of the bubble that we're in and increasing in.
Which is true, but remember the option is either fix Social Security, address it now, or there is no Social Security.
No. The option is run against Social Security and lose your race, or run for not against Social Security and have a chance in winning your race. Because if you
but-
run against it,
but then-
you are losing 95%
But
of your races.
a lot. Then in 10 years, the dollar explodes. Then the entire economy goes away.
I don't disagree
And
with
so
you
the
on
point
how-
the point that I'm making is yes, what you're talking about is practical for people that are running, but that's going to keep, as long as they keep kicking the can down the road, eventually this is going to destroy the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
And that means no Social Security. So you either fix Social Security, like do something to change it and fix it, or It goes away
But
entirely.
the political realities of it is that running against Social Security will get you a quick loss.
Well, you don't have to run against it to say you're going to fix it. But also on the Medicare, Medicaid front. I think
Wait, when you say you're going to fix it, though, you're really talking about cuts to Medicare when you're pushed on it.
No, but just for example, on Medicare, Medicaid, I think Wall Street Journal reported that somewhere between like somewhere around 15% is just waste, fraud, and abuse. So if you cut that out and people still get the same benefits and everything's more efficient, nobody's mad. They're happy that you're cutting like bad
people
money.
say they're
That's just going to like insurers and stuff like
The
that.
problem is when you're running and talking about trying to fix Medicare, your opponent says they're going to cut your Medicare, they're going to kill your grandma, they're going to blah, 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 because someone's going to be opportunity.
Fixes are cuts. You'd only fix by taking away the wasteful spending, but I'm sure somebody's going to say one person's wasteful spending isn't.
No, but I think the best way you do that is you say we're not cutting Medicare. All the money is going to stay in it in like the slush fund. So it's all surpluses. And then once you have a giant surplus, you can be like, hey, we got a giant surplus. We're actually saving money. So it's not even a cut. You're like, well, we can just disperse this money to other programs.
Yeah, I mean, all of these programs obviously need reform, but the political realities on the ground is that the older you are, the more likely you are to vote, and then the older you are, the more likely you are to be getting Social Security benefits. So just the way the interests play out is that it's disastrous for your campaign. You're throwing in the towel by running on that. Even saying you're only going to fix it, people will tar and feather you as doing much worse.
Well, yeah, that's the thing your opponent's going to say.
I think whenever Rick Scott talks about it or whatever from Florida, it's never, because he's one of the guys who's in elected office.
No, because they run a lot of these people run on it as like we have to cut this or else we're gonna die. Instead, run on we need to fix this or else like not from the cut perspective. Be like all this money is being wasted and it's gonna go insolvent. We need to save the money and make it more efficient for the people who are receiving it, so that this program can be there for forever.
Hey, everybody wants to make things more efficient, and that sounds nice in theory, but in practice, when you get down to it, no, we need major reforms. We need to push the age up. If we're actually going to fix this and not go off of some wasteful spending that they have, we need to push the age up to 70, obviously, and we need to be more restrictive with the healthcare that our government gives out.
With the gutting of USAID, Schumer said, who knows, it could be this institution. He says it could be the IRS next.
Oh, no.
What if Trump just... Here's I was talking to Lisa Reynolds earlier, and I was like, could you imagine if Trump just came out and did a press conference where he was very just like, low energy as he sometimes is, and says, well, quite frankly, the IRS is very bad, and we're going to shut it down. No more taxes on anybody, and if you have a problem with that, you can vote for Democrats. So your choices are keep all your money or give it to the government and vote Democrat. Have fun, and he just walks off out of the room. It's a hypothetical that I bring up because I believe 97% of the population would celebrate that. Understanding that it means like government programs, funds, things would end. In the immediate, the average person would be like, so you mean I keep all of my paycheck now? Yay! And then it would only be till later. They're like, wait, where are my programs? You know what I mean?
Well, the average person doesn't even pay federal income tax. Wasn't it like half of them don't?
Yeah,
least,
the 47% or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
I wonder
All right,
what would happen
everybody.
with back taxes.
We're going to go to Super Chat, so smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. And more importantly, head over to timcast.com right now and click Join Us. We had a really great Green Room episode tonight. We were all hanging out talking about the Super Bowl and Trump, and it was like a kind of off-the-cuff conversation with some adult humor, I'll put it mildly, which I imagine will end up getting clipped because it's hilarious, but that's okay. So you don't want to miss it. It's a lot of fun. We were all hanging out on the couch, and it was probably one of the better Green Rooms that we've done because there was a lot of just, I don't know, bro humor, I guess. We had fun. But I'll read your super chats now, and then we're going to have that uncensored show coming up in about 20 minutes at timcast.com where you as members get to call in and talk to us. Here we go. Manifester says, any chance you could shout out the Fort Bend County Young Republicans? We're having a meeting for the upcoming State of the Union in Katy, Texas. Is it Katy?
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. He also says, 9 months, let's go. Can't wait to see what Tim does, the future of this business. Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Poole. Let's effing go. That is indeed correct. Her name is Allison Poole.
Oh, nice.
That's right. So I've been getting the door for her and saying Mrs. Poole. It is very fun. I recommend getting married. You got to find someone you want to get married to. Taxi Plady says, friend shout to Sir Rank Zero Productions. He's on the web, plays video games, and cooks. Good guy to friend. Oh, very fun, very fun. The Sleeper, as Awakened, says the Gaza Strip, once rebuilt and modernized, would make the perfect place to move the United Nations. Trump says he wants to make it like the Riviera.
Yeah, he wanted like a global community there. It's a real vague, like, what the hell is he even?
When Ian brought up the U.S. seizing Gaza as the 51st state, we all laughed and said that would instantly start World War III. And then Trump just went out and said it.
It's been amazing how expansionist the mindset of Trump has been once he took office. He really started talking about the Panama Canal, Greenland, Gaza. I'm excited every day to see the next thing we might add to the list of potential U.S. territories. I forgot Canada. It was even an afterthought.
Jason Nixon says, Tim, ever since the FBI got purged, my online girlfriend stopped responding to me. Oh, man. Sorry to hear. I wonder if those things are related. Yeah. All right, what do we got here? Jason Dixon says, got a guest consideration for you. Join the Timcast.com Discord community network, Roma Nation. Have you ever considered having someone from the community on as a guest? Roma lives close to you. We did. We're working on it. I don't know if I should spill the beans just yet, but we're working on. So let me just say this: the Culture War podcast has never been completed. We had plans for what the Culture War show is supposed to be, and the Friday morning live streams are placeholders until we build out the real plan. And so let me just give you a general idea. I'm going to say it, and everyone's going to get mad at me, because this is how it works. Trump is much the same way. He's like, oh, my team's going to get mad at me. I'm going to say it, but I'm going to tell you guys what we're doing anyway. And then the people behind the scenes are like, Trump, we're not ready. Here's the idea. If you're a member of Timcast.com and you're in the Discord, we are going to be having members-only events, and those events are going to be on whatever day we can do them. Probably a weekend, sometimes Friday morning, maybe Saturday or Sunday night. In-person, live political debate shows, the Culture War, where our members join the debates. The audience will only be our members. So here's the idea. We get a venue. We are set up at a table doing the show. We have a bit of the debate. And then we're going to invite people for a few minutes at a time to get in their debate at the same time for a decent amount of time. And so if you're a member, you can sit in the live audience. And if someone shows up and they're like, I really want to come in, because we really want liberals to show up, become a member. It's a members only thing. And then those shows will be basically our members debating whoever shows up. So we'd have, like, let's say it's the fours at the table. And then you guys know, like, oh, Nuance Bro is going to be there. Dude, that guy's so wrong about Israel and Palestine. I want to debate him. You show up, you submit, and then we have members actually join the debates with us for like 10-minute stints. So it's going to be really fun. Yeah.
I love it.
That's the plan, man. That's the plan. But we'll see how it works out. We got restrictions and limitations on how it could function, and All right, let's grab some more super chats. What have we here? Megaglaive says, isn't government funding any news organization a violation of the First Amendment freedom of the press? No. There's appropriations from Congress for public news. So basically, like NPR and PBS, they don't get money directly from Congress. Congress funds some other organization, which then disperses things to local news and radio stations. I'm not a big fan of it. There's also Voice of America, though, and Carrie Lake is there now, so everyone's super excited for that, right?
Did she start there yet?
I don't know.
Didn't keep up with that. I think she started in a different news organization and almost made her way into office a few times, but hey.
All right. Axophilioma says, hey, Tim, one of my best friends was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 3 organs at age 35. He has 2 kids and wants to fight. I want to help. I really appreciate a shout out for Give, Send, Go at Cure for Kirk. Sorry to hear it, man. Hope that helps. Hope that works out for you. And I appreciate using Give, Send, Go. I think I met one of the executives at Give, Send, Go recently, and he was like, thank you so much for shouting us out and criticizing GoFundMe. And I'm like,
awesome.
But it's not on purpose. It's not because, we're trying to make you better. It's because GoFundMe literally censored and shut down people who had wrongthink. And Give, Send, Go is the safe place to raise money. That's just that. You go on GoFundMe, maybe they ban you. Not fun. Cody Johnson says, hey, Phil, the new album is awesome. It's like going back to 14 and discovering women. I'm obsessed with kerosene.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Cheers.
That's one way to describe it.
Right.
All right. J. Joan Clark says, Tim, every time you talk about Israel and Gaza, nobody ever talks about the 1990s discovery of mass oil deposits off the shore of Gaza. Also, the mass deposits of natural gas underneath the Gaza Strip. Thoughts? Is that true?
Very interesting. Yeah.
There are gas fields on the coast by the Gaza Strip there.
They also discovered huge oil off the coast of Malaysia before the Vietnam War. So I think a lot of that.
There's a lot of areas in the Mediterranean Sea, as I understand, that have a lot of different oil reserves too. So I don't know if we're ever running out of that good stuff. So
Oil?
oil, yeah.
Well, to be honest, once we invade Canada, we're going to increase our supply quite substantially.
Lately, I've heard
Oh, go ahead.
that the Earth makes it, that it's just constantly crushing carbon into oil, so it's like replenishing.
Well, not at the rate, not at close to the rate that we use it, but I think there's a surplus. And then it's also about how economically viable it is to access that oil.
Right.
So
Some of it's really, really, really deep from tectonic shift. I just want to stress, we have never gotten more death threats. In my career, I have never gotten more death threats, and the Timcast organization as a company has never gotten more death threats since I posted jokingly that we were going to invade Canada.
wow.
Canadians
It
don't
sounds
mess
like
around.
a precursor to as to why we need to invade them now.
Well, it's they're engaged in an online harassment campaign, and we can't stand for it.
Americans will not be intimidated by violent threats from Canadians.
Trump does the tariffs, right? They never go into effect. And then I tweeted, as soon as their economy is destroyed, their will to resist will erode, and then we'll march in and put them in their rightful places of U.S. territory with no political representation. And we just got inundated with insane death threats.
They got that American spirit, man. Defend their territory with their life.
They're just a very, very vocal minority. Most of the Canadians will welcome us as liberators.
It's funny because so much of Canadian nationalism is centered around being anti-American, and most of the time us Americans forget Canada is even there. For example, when I was talking about territories we were going to take over, Canada's an afterthought. So they're old news.
There's no reason to take over Canada because Canada exists because of the United States.
It would be nice to add a few more states.
And they speak French.
Well, not Quebec or
We
British
wouldn't
Columbia.
take them. The Quebecers would actually fight back.
I know. I think if we were to invade Canada and we went to Quebec and said, "Here's the plan: side with us, and you will be an independent nation," they'd be like, "Deal."
We could
We'll
use
do
them as a Trojan horse.
It would be like a reverse of the,
That's right.
revolution. We'll be the
American-
with the Lafayette.
Yeah.
Like encourage Quebec independence. That's how we take over the rest of Canada. Some psyops. CIA, you could take that one.
Well, they when was the last time they actually tried to get independence?
I think
they never
every
really
like
had-
20 years they have a vote or something. That
They're
gets
like, "We are French." Oh.
I thought the vote was in the past like 10 years or so. I'm not sure.
And it's funny because so many Canadian politicians have to virtue signal to the Quebecers in French. And that's why all of the bigwig politicians have to learn French. That's why Pierre Poilievre, the supposed conservative future leader of Canada, speaks French. And
His
that's
name's
why,
Pierre.
oh, is that, I don't,
It's a super French name.
The last time they voted was 95.
not too long.
30 years.
Oh, wow. Narrow margin, 50.6% to 49.4% to remain. Wow.
And because of this, though, Canada heavily subsidizes Quebec. That's what the game is in Canada. To keep them happy, they get special benefits in Quebec, as I understand. We might need to bring a Canadian on to break it down further.
If we go in through like Saskatchewan and like the more red areas in the center, they'll side with us. And then all we have to do is sweep outward towards the coasts and crush the resistance.
I think that would be an interesting culture war to have a Quebec national, or whatever you would call them, that wants independence.
Oh, dude,
and a
no, I got it.
regular Canadian that doesn't.
It's a good idea, but I made it better. We got to bring on some Canadian political commentators and do a D&D style war game of the U.S. invading Canada. And we'll like roll and, you'll be Trudeau and you'll be Pierre.
I love Pierre Poilievre.
And then, Elad will be Bolton.
We need to deport all these Canadian American political commentators. Stephen Crowder, Lauren Chen. There's another girl, some white blonde girl.
Lauren Southern.
Lauren Southern.
She doesn't
she's-
live here.
Yeah, she's in Canada.
She's Canadian.
She wasn't Canadian?
She'll be American
Canadian,
soon
but she
enough.
lives in
All
Canada.
right, doesn't make her American for living here.
But you can't deport
doesn't
someone
live
who's
here.
in Canada.
Oh, she's in Canada is what you're saying. Okay. Deported to Quebec and from
Well,
Canada.
Viva Fry! Viva, we're coming for you!
He's actually,
There's a lot of Americans who pretend
American now?
Canadians who pretend
so,
they're
yeah.
American too.
Jordan Peterson, I think he's
JP, another
officially
Canadian.
American now.
No, they're deeply
Viva.
ingrained in our society, but nobody ever
no.
accuses them of dual loyalty. Ted Cruz, I believe, is also a Canadian who was a citizen while
He
in
renounced.
Congress.
He renounced.
Is there a Canadian blood libel?
No, for some reason. Nor is there an Irish one.
Nah,
What's the biggest,
Viva can
Canadian
stay.
lobbying organization that it's.
I feel like there is. I feel like
they spend
Canada
like $100
benefits-
million on
it's
like three
K-Pac.
candidates.
There is unequal treaties between us and Canada, and Trump is trying to equal that trade relationship. Totally.
Is it what does APEC stand for?
America, Israel, Political Action
No,
Committee?
it's Public Affairs Committee.
Public.
Oh, so it's ACPAC.
Viva Fry is not an American citizen yet. He's
So all these Canadians in American politics, we send them back, and then from the inside, they encourage pro-America sentiment.
Viva. We have a mission if you choose to accept it. We're sending you in. Viva. Nah, they'd lock him up right away because they know he's a dissenter.
I think Trudeau's on his way out. What's up with that? That's official? He said he was quitting, and then what, Pierre's going to come in?
I haven't been keeping up, and we don't care about Canada.
Well, they're gonna have elections. I guess he's just not like running again.
Okay.
You know, he was awfully quiet during the threats from Trump with tariffs and whatnot. You didn't hear a word out of that guy. Funny how that works.
Masterful. Trump, that was so masterful on Trump's part that he threatened tariffs and then immediately got both countries to establish border patrols.
It was a masterful response from Pierre to stay out of the way.
All right, let's grab some of what we got. We got Common Sense Fishing says, Nuance Bro. Say a company like Politico makes $50 million a year. The government pays it $1 million a year, but its profit margins may be slim. Profits may only be a few percent. If they lose that percent, they go in the red. Right.
That's that. I would say that's substantial. Like 2% of your annual revenue is substantial. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because especially if, like, that's a really great point. If, you know, whatever the revenue may be, even 200 million, and it's 1%. So we're looking at, 0.5%. That's still a lot of money for a single person. That extra million that comes in might go to a handful of people. I don't want to single out Politico in this regard, but people might be very unhappy to lose $1 million. There's a car dealership not too far from here, and I was talking to one of the managers, and they said they do $1 million a month. Now, you go to the average leftist, communist, and say, did you know that car dealership is making $1 million a month? And go, that's wrong, man. Why are they making so much money? And then if you talk to any conservative or libertarian, they're going to be like, right. And what's their profit margin? They're probably at like 5% or some really small number in profit. And so the owner has to own, 10 different dealerships to actually make himself particularly wealthy. And so they don't understand that. So if you go to a car dealership, and someone's giving a kickback of, the government's buying a $10,000 premium, detailing package for their vehicles when it normally costs $100, you might say, yeah, but it's only $50,000 a month out of their, $1 million of revenue. That's tiny. And it's like, yes. And that's $500,000-$600,000 a year into the pocket of the guy who runs it. It's a kickback. All right, let's see what we got. We'll grab a super chat here. Neil Williams says, the millennials that were impacted by 9/11 are finally seeing their first win in this administration. No one is talking about this.
Yeah, that's got to be a big deal. It's a big deal for me.
Bro,
I'm Gen X.
It's all the Ron Paul people, like from that era, are cheering.
Ron Paul is cheering.
Yeah. The gutting of USAID, the FBI, and the CIA. If you, like everyone I know from that time, all the arguments they were making, Trump is steamrolling this. It's amazing.
That's why I said that Trump's the most libertarian president that we've had since Calvin Coolidge, possibly the most libertarian since like the founders. Like,
how do they allow him to continue? That's why I said it was Trump's march to the sea. Because I'm looking at it like the resistance is over. I mean, there were people, I don't want to say they, but there were people who literally tried to kill Trump before he won. They tried to put him in prison. It didn't work. The insurrection stuff, it didn't work. Trump wins, and now he's just marching to the sea, scorched earth over the deep state. Is that it?
Well, when you say, like, how are they going to allow him to continue?
John Wilkes.
If they is gone,
no.
because he gets rid of that.
John Wilkes Booth, though Lincoln was able to continue, Lincoln still didn't make it in the end. My concern is for Trump's safety because of the actions that he's taking are so heavy-handed.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. The age of security is upon us. Just be cool, do what's right.
I hope that he's got, he has people that are competent in charge of the Secret Service now. It would make perfect sense for him to be like, we need to get, all the people that were in the Secret Service and get them out, or get a significant portion of them out, and make sure that we get the most competent people that are available, or at least on his personal detail. Like maybe he got people that were, new or had not, been in the Secret Service for a long time when they were taking care of the situation in Pennsylvania. But now I would imagine that it's something at the top of his mind.
Did you see his recent comments about assassination where he said,
yeah,
he's like, well, if Iran goes for it, I have instructions that I've left. And I'm like, dude, you're sending a message to Mossad to like, I'm serious. Like,
I thought that too.
You have to be careful about that. That's scary.
It's someone that
And
wants
the way Netanyahu was grimacing when he said he was going to invade Gaza and take it, and he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member by going to timcast.com. The Green Room show is back. We are ramping up 2025's documentary productions. I'm hoping to do every 3 months, have a full-length documentary produced. Members-only content for you guys. And we got a bunch of plans, too. We've got skateboard content with Boonies. We've got the vlog is back. We've already filmed a handful of them. We got a couple guys joining in. You guys as members have made this all possible. I want to say one thing. I say to you now, if you're not already a member, I'm just going to tell you right now. I can't say too much, but you want to become a member right now. You want to sign up to be a member right now. You will not regret it, but I can't say more. Only that if you wait, you'll regret it. I know. Don't worry. Next week, I can give you more definitive reasoning on this, but sign up today. The members only show is coming up right now. Plus, we have a Green Room episode that was really, really fun and funny, and you will enjoy it. It's something you want to watch while having a beer, and you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh your ass off. It's a good time. But we'll go to that members only show where you as members in the Discord community can call in and talk to us. It's going to be a lot of fun. So follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Nuance Bro, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, you can follow me on X at Nuance Bro. That's primarily where I shitpost. So there you go.
Nuance Bro, it's been very chill. We've done spaces a lot in the past, so it's nice to have another chat with Nuance Bro because we haven't done one of those in a while. My name's Alad Eliyahu. I'm a field correspondent here at Timcast. You can find me on Instagram, Barely Informed with Alad. Ian?
Yeah, next time you guys do a space, let me know. I'd love to jump in. That'd be pretty fun.
Does Elon even are spaces still a thing? Is the functionality still there?
Yeah, people do them all the time.
I just did one actually a few days ago. So follow me on X. I'm become very active on there since the news has been changing and so many things happen. I've been doing a lot of research and keeping up with it on X. So follow me at Ian Crossan on X. I'll see you later.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record just dropped. It's called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.